exclusive coverage of the 150th Run for the Roses.
To do it in the Kentucky Derby, a state that you're from, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's a lot of hard work over the years. You know, you just plug along and you hope everything goes together. And, you know, it's just a real honor to be in a race like this. Thanks, Gary. Real honor.
And we talk so much about what it takes to get to this point, and McPeak is an incredible example of that. He has been in this race year after year after year until today. The closest he had come was a second place finish in 1995. And then you talk about his jockey, Brian Hernandez, who had been in this race 5 times. His best finish was 8th place in 2017. He had been the apprentice jockey of the year all the way back in 2004. So we all pay attention today. We see who crosses the finish line first today.
Right. Yeah.
But this is decades of work, and so fascinating and emotional to watch them celebrate that.
And gets the biggest win of his career.
And holds off a closer in Sierra Leone just by a nose. I mean, one head bob, this race could have gone a totally different direction.
To do that.
All sorts of records broken. Of course, a lot of you probably wagered on the favorite Fierceness, who finished 15th. A little bit surprising there, Keith. Another Derby in the books. Like we said, this was a big one, number 150, and we couldn't picture a better way to celebrate it than with each and every one of you. Big thank you to everybody who worked on this show behind the scenes, and of course to Keith Farmer, the one and only. It's an honor to share this desk with you today of all days especially.
Same. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Todd. I know that you've done this several times over the years. Keith, this is your 27th Derby, I believe.
Yeah,
pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
This is number 7 for me, 4th time working the Derby here at LEX 18, which is always the honor of the year. So much fun to be here. But there's a lot of first-timers in this year's field running for the Roses for the first time in their career. 8 trainers trying to make their first mark, 4 jockeys as well, and both of which can be said for the trainer and the jockey connected with Forever Young, one of 2 horses trying to become the first horse from Japan to win the running for the Roses.
Yeah.
So many fun facts here on Derby Day. Here's a few more for you. That jockey is just 26 years old, making his Derby debut. Like we said, he was actually supposed to be in the field last year on the Japanese horse Continuar, which was scratched just 2 days before the first Saturday in May. So a good opportunity for him to get on this track on this day for the very first time. The only other jockey who is younger who will be making his Derby debut today is Keith Asmussen, the son of legendary Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen. Of course, he has a horse in this field as well. My favorite fact about that 25-year-old jockey, Keith Asmussen, he actually has his master's in accounting. That was a promise he made to his dad. He had to finish that before he pursued jockeying full-time, and I think that worked out for him pretty well, making his debut in the Derby this afternoon.
Good fallback plan, right?
Yes.
But something tells me he's going to be sticking with this for quite some time. Crazy. It's like 365 days we've been waiting on this day to come back around, right? And it's kind of like taking that road trip and you know you're so close to home. And like we know we're so close to the race, but it's still so far away.
Keith, I hate to break it to you. We had to wait extra long in this leap year for Derby, 366 that time around. That's one big number for the day. Let's look at some other numbers. Current Derby odds for this evening's race. We'll start with number 1, Dornoch, a full brother to last year's winner of Mage. They'd become the first full siblings to both win Derby crowns. Sierra Leone, one of the favorites in the field, now sitting at 5-1.
Hey, I love a horse with experience. Maggie, what do you think?
Well, I came into today trying to bet on Taylor Swift. I brought a friendship bracelet just in case we were lucky enough to cross paths. I don't think she's made her appearance, so for now I guess I'll be sticking with Sierra Leone, although I do also like Catching Freedom, so I'm looking at a potential exacta there.
How about a trifecta box?
There is so much research and prep that goes into preparing for this day to bring you all of these stories, and one of the things we always do is to dig into the resume of each of these horses, and it's interesting because there are always major differences even in the level of experience, right? So you look at the most experienced horse in this race, Just Steel, 11 races on his resume, and then we're going to talk about one of the more lightly raced horses as well here in a moment. The funny thing is these two actually both came from the sire of Justify, which as we all know, did pretty well here on this track and in the rest of the Triple Crown races as well. So we're talking about Just Steel and Just a Touch.
Yeah, and this one is lightly raced. It's one of two contenders for Brad Cox, currently at 10-1 odds.
Well, you talked about the similarities in the resume with Mage, last year's winner. He'll also be breaking from the same gate as Mage. And you heard from trainer Brad Cox there. He made his Derby debut back in 2021, and in the 3 Derbies since then, he's had multiple contenders in every single field. That is the case again this year. Of course, Just a Touch being one, Catching Freedom is the other. He was set to have a third in Encino, but Encino scratched from the race. Welcome back to the backside of Churchill Downs alongside Keith Farmer. I'm Maggie Davis, and we are getting you set for the 150th edition of the Kentucky Derby, hopefully helping everybody out there decide who they want to root for a little bit later this afternoon. And when we're trying to make that decision, there's a few boxes you might want to check, and for a lot of people, Fierceness is certainly checking those boxes. Excellent odds, highly favored in this race already. A Hall of Fame jockey in John Velasquez, who's won this race 3 times already in his career, and a very experienced trainer. Fierceness wants to get out in a hurry. Coming up a little bit later, we still have one more preview to bring you, and that will be Sierra Leone. That's a horse that pretty much routinely does the opposite, a late closer in every single one of his wins. These two battling for the first time in their careers. We'll have much more on Sierra Leone in just a little bit, so stay with us here on LEX 18. But for now, for Keith, I'm Maggie. Let's go back to Larry and Megan.
Yeah, this is a colt that has a lot going for him, and that includes pedigree, price, and even the promise that he has shown throughout his career.
Trainer Chad Brown is a 4-time Eclipse Award winner. Jockey Tyler Gaffalione has so much experience at Churchill Downs. He says racing in the Derby is like playing in the World Series in your own backyard. And yet, what do we always say? You have to get a good trip to win this race. But a good trip might look a little different for Sierra Leone, because some horses are born to be wild, others are bred to be champions.
He's just a naturally born rare talent. You know, this horse obviously has been that way for probably his entire life.
Born of 2017 Horse of the Year Gun Runner and the Grade 1 winner Heavenly Love, Sierra Leone sold for a record-breaking $2.3 million as a yearling. The Dark Bay Colt has raced 4 times and, save one photo finish, has been victorious.
Sierra Leone from last to first. This is a big effort.
The Grade 2 Rims and Stakes set the table for the kind of race Sierra Leone runs.
Door knock not done. It's gonna be a photo.
2 months later, in his first race as a 3-year-old, jockey Tyler Gaffalione guided Sierra Leone out of the back of the pack.
Tight quarters between horses. Sierra Leone on the outside for Tyler Gaffalione. Sierra Leone.
The pair crossed the sloppy finish line first in Sierra Leone's first race, wearing blinkers.
He's a real gentleman of a horse. He's a bit curious, but he's very manageable.
That chivalrous curiosity briefly delayed the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland last month, laying the groundwork for Sierra Leone to once again run the race his way.
And they're off in the Toyota Bluegrass, and Sierra Leone is last of 10, facing a lot of traffic to deal with onto the far turn.
He made up 9 lengths on his way to earning one final come from behind win ahead of the Derby.
Sierra Leone is running on from the outside, a 16th to go. Sierra Leone!
He just has so much ability. He does things so easy. We haven't even got close to the bottom of him yet.
He might not be the fastest horse early in his races, but once he gets moving, it does seem like his stride's probably 2 to the horses next to him.
Even as trainer Chad Brown makes his 8th crack at the run for the Roses, and Gaffalione prepares for his 7th Derby mount, there's something fresh about Sierra Leone.
I've definitely never had these feelings before. It's pretty special. It's hard to put in the words, but just a lot of excitement.
I've had, good looking, well-bred horses come to this barn before, and they don't quite pan out to their expectations. But for this horse, he has, and he's really everything and more they thought when they bought him.
Sierra Closer Leone, speed-centric horses who raced either the front or just off of it in the Kentucky Derby have crossed the finish line first in 8 of the last 10 Derbies. But the other 2, the off-the-pace exceptions, were Rich Strike 2 years ago and Mage just last year. So the real question is that a new trend, or is it time for us to begin deviating back toward the norm? Sierra Leone is certainly one to watch in that regard. Does he start near the back of the pack again, and is he able to make up that ground even in a field of 20 horses? Anybody out there who's looking to resonate with a name might lean toward Resilience, right? A lot of people can probably relate to that, and the ownership group of Resilience has certainly persevered as well. As longtime trainer and prominent breeder Marty Wygod died last month, just 5 days after Resilience punched his ticket to the Kentucky Derby. Martin Wygod had already gifted this colt to his daughter, Emily Bushnell, and longtime friend and breeding advisor, Rick Waldman, before the bay-colored colt crossed the finish line first in the Wood Memorial.
Resilience is drifting out. It's Resilience who's clear, is up by 3 lengths.
But the groundwork had been laid by the horse's original owner.
I'm telling you, Marty seemed to pour his soul into making sure all the right things were done with this horse. Marty was a deep thinker and a deep planner.
But preparation does not always equate to success in the Run for the Roses.
You can draw out all the plans you want, but everything changes when the gate opens. You'll never, it's very difficult to map out, what kind of trip you're going to have to take in the Derby.
Resilience has earned his name, now with 6 races under his belt.
A little bit slow developing. I mean, he's a nice horse, but the type of horse that you hoped would continue to develop.
And develop he did. Resilience premiered with a 6th place finish at Saratoga last September, then progressed with a pair of top 3 finishes at Churchill Downs later that fall.
Resilience, not a horse, he's been just progressing race by race.
A win finally came on the first day of 2024.
Resilience is 6-5, and he's an easy winner. Resilience by 4 in the end.
Resilience ran 4th in the Grade 2 Risen Star behind 3 Derby qualifiers.
Sierra Leone Trek Phantom down. Chasing Freedom 3rd, and Resilience finished 4th in the Risen Star.
And in his final tune-up before the Kentucky Derby, Resilience got back in the winner's circle.
Resilience will win the Wood.
So that's what gets us going to this race, is how well he ran in the Wood. And to say we're excited, that's an understatement,
Certainly always a lot of excitement on Derby Day, and an incredible story there. Bill Mott, the trainer, looking for his first win on the track. He won in the Inquiry Room with Country House in 2019, but of course, more fun when you can celebrate in the moment. And then Jockey Alvarado is making his 5th Derby mount. Resilience, of course, foaled at Lane's In-Farm in Versailles, same barn as the favorite, Fierceness. And of course, a whole lot more coverage on the rest of the field coming your way throughout the day. We'll have you covered here on the backside, but for now, we'll send it back to the first turn with Megan and Larry.
All right, thanks so much, guys.
4th place in the Louisiana Derby.
But he has won one time here on this track at Churchill Downs. Morning line odds were 20-1. That has since changed to 52-1, Keith. And trainer Steve Asmussen says that Track Phantom's strength is really taking long, rhythmic strides, being an efficient mover. You have to think Asmussen is hoping those strides carry him across the finish line first for his first Kentucky Derby win. When Track Phantom breaks from the gates on the first Saturday in May, he'll have the guidance of 2 Hall of Famers. Jockey Joel Rosario won the Kentucky Derby on Orb in 2013. And trainer Steve Asmussen is North America's all-time winningest trainer, with more than 10,000 victories. Yet the Kentucky Derby still eludes him.
There is a pageantry and event to it. Do your best to put your horse in the best mental and physical condition you can, and then there are a lot of elements to it that are completely out of your hands.
Track Phantom will give Asmussen his 26th crack at the Garland of Roses. As a colt that's won all 3 of his 2-turn races and did not finish out of the money in his first 6 starts. But in start number 7, the Louisiana Derby, on March 23rd, he finished 4th as the 2-1 favorite, despite getting out to an early lead.
And now Track Phantom with this early bid for Joel Rosario to take the early lead as they head toward the first turn. This Trek Phantom, who leads coming toward the quarter pole. It's Catching Freedom to win the Louisiana Derby. Trek Phantom finished fourth.
Today's Run for the Roses will be Track Phantom's first race since then. With 20-1 morning line odds, he's not exactly a long shot, but he's not the favorite either.
I think that 1.25 miles with that huge run to the first turn with 20 runners, a lot of things will be decided about the outcome because of what people do in the first quarter mile.
But after that first turn, Asmussen admits his eyes may wander to the horse Just Steel and to his son, jockey Keith Asmussen, who's making his Derby debut.
The break and early going, I will 100% be concentrating on Track Phantom and what I think needs to happen for him to show his best side. But I will periodically peek and see where Keith's at, and I wish him nothing but the best.
So could one of the Asmussens win their first Derby today? It could be trainer Steve with Track Phantom or jockey Keith on Just Steel.